The first thing I saw when I opened Twitter that morning was my own face, warped mid-word from the shaky video someone had taken the night before. I was at the neighborhood pub, standing on a rickety chair, gesturing with a pint in my hand, and babbling about my dream to redesign the old abandoned Battersea textile mill into housing for artists and families. A minute-long snippet, retweeted 100 times in 20 minutes, riddled with emoji and jeering hashtags. Mill Madness Dream On Eddie. My cousin Anton's handle was the first in my notifications, doubled down with a meme. The video cut off with my voice rising, too loud for the room, declaring, "We're going to make something that matters, something London's never seen before." When I scrolled further, everyone I'd grown up with seemed to be quoting me, or worse, commenting. Even my older sister Carly, who never so much as shared a family photo, had sent laughing face reactions to the group chat. I tried to find something to do with my hands, settling on washing a glass that didn't need washing. The steam in the kitchen window fogged the view of our little patch of Brixton. Gray and unwavering, the city as I'd known it since I was a child. I felt like a child again, hot-faced, exposed. I remembered clutching my school drawings of impossible houses and tree-covered skyscrapers and showing them to Mom, who'd always been gentle but unblinking in her good sense. Lovely love, but maybe choose something more secure. Now the whole world, or at least the pocket of it that mattered most, seemed to be laughing. Walking to the bus that morning, I could hear the echoes. At the corner newsagent, some lads from the old estate nudged each other when I walked by. "All right, Grand Designs," one smirked, and I forced a smile, though I wanted the ground to swallow me. I was 24, 2 years out of architecture school, hustling at a tiny firm that specialized in kitchen extensions and council paperwork. But last week, outside the pub, I'd slipped and told Abdi, who knew someone on the council's heritage committee, my plan for the mill. He dared me to get up and pitch it to everyone then and there, half in jest, half with that hungry hope people get when they want to see you fall. The ridicule was immediate and relentless. Anton called Mom and Dad, and the following Sunday dinner became a tribunal. Mom fussed over the gravy, but couldn't meet my eyes. Dad just coughed and kept his head in the paper, like silence would hide his disappointment. Carly, always sharper, said what the others wouldn't. "Don't be daft, Ed. The mill belongs to some Chinese conglomerate. You might as well promise to turn the Shard into a halfway house. It's nice to have ideas, but don't embarrass yourself or us. You're not a savior of South London." I tried to chew my peas, throat tight. It's not for show. It makes sense. Dense housing, communal spaces, keep the bones of the city. Even if the current owner sits on it, one day... Dad finally dropped the paper. "Grow up, son. Pay your dues. Maybe in 20 years, someone will listen." Later that night, in the dark quiet of my room, their words worked under my skin. I wasn't sure what stung more, their scorn or the flicker of belief still alive inside me. But I also couldn't let it go. That humiliation became the foundation stone, patient and weighty, settling under every mundane day at work. I did what was expected. I reset passwords, taught myself new SketchUp plugins, filed the paperwork for suburban sunrooms and awkward loft conversions. But in the cracks around meetings, over pints with the few friends who hadn't joined in the mockery, I kept two things going. A 3D model of the Battersea textile mill grew on my battered laptop, floor by floor, window by window. And I read a lot. Local council meeting notes, maintenance reports, property records, Chinese real estate bulletins, even the old diaries of the mill's founder at the Borough Library. For 2 years, nothing changed. My plan felt like a childish secret. But patience, I learned, doesn't mean idleness. Then, one sodden Monday afternoon, My manager, Hamid, called me into his office. He was a gentle man, but serious, with great dark eyes that seemed to pierce right through. "Eddie, you know the big development competition, the mayor's office thing?" "Yeah, the one for adaptive reuse." My voice barely hid the flicker of hope. "They're taking proposals for sites that have been locked up for years, considering social impact as well as cost." He handed me a printout. "One of the sites is the Battersea mill." I must have paled because he shook his head, smiling kindly. "Look, I know you're enthusiastic. If you want to throw in an entry after hours, I'll back you. Just don't let it get in the way of work." I worked on that proposal every night for 2 months. I found a community housing cooperative who agreed to consult and, if we won, participate. I taught myself the language of urban sustainability, reaching out to anyone on the council who'd take my calls, willing myself not to choke when people laughed or hung up. Each setback was a brick in the foundation. No one, least of all my parents or sister, knew I was still at it. The day the shortlist came out, my hands shook so badly at my desk, I nearly deleted the email by accident. We'd made it. Out of 60 entrants, 5 were being invited to present in front of the mayor's committee, local press, and, cruelly, community representatives. I told Hamid. I kept it to myself otherwise. The day of the presentation, the sky was the color of steel wool, rain slicking every surface outside City Hall. I wore my only good suit, knees jittering. I stood up and spoke clearly, concisely. I showed them my renderings, light-filled studios, playgrounds rising where factory floors had warped, the mill's old brickwork left lovingly exposed. Social housing, cooperatively run, affordable units for families and single parents, studios for working artists, real community. Not luxury condos with empty glass boxes. The committee seemed unmoved until I showed before and after overlays. I read a letter from a grandmother on the estate describing her daughter forced out of London's rising rents and a plea from her young nephew to let me have a home near Grandma. I walked home that evening, soaked to the skin but dry-eyed. Whatever they decided, I'd shown them I was more than a joke. 3 weeks of waiting. My mind turned every possibility over until I thought I would go mad, and then a call from City Hall. My scheme had been chosen. The mayor's office, a group of angel investors charmed by the community-first approach, and the housing co-op had agreed to buy out the foreign owners. It was mine and truly not mine, ours. The announcements went out online. The architectural press interviewed me. Suddenly, Daily Mail and Guardian pieces used my name with a seriousness that made me grit my teeth. LinkedIn requests from people I'd never met. Even old friends who had posted memes years earlier slid into my inbox, eager to reconnect. But I saved the news for my family. The council planned a groundbreaking event for the mill's reopening, for the whole community. Someone suggested I invite my family and neighbors. After all, the design was about them. A photographer wanted to document the triumphant return of the local lad. It embarrassed me, but I agreed. The night before, I barely slept. I wandered my old streets, the narrow walkways of the estate dark and still, the broken pavement that had once tripped me on the way to school, the corner shop where I'd stolen my first packet of crisps as a child and apologized with a 5-pence the next day. All these little places had shaped me. When I returned home, I sat on my bed with my hands in my lap and waited for sleep that never quite came. On the morning of the event, Mum called to make sure I'd wear something sensible and not get too big for your boots. Dad fussed about train schedules. Even Carly texted, "See you at 1 p.m., big shot." Rain threatened as we arrived at the mill, but the clouds seemed to hold back, the sky a low dome over the broken windows and charred bricks. Where weeds once tangled around rusted fences, banners flapped. A little pop-up tent housed a table of tea and biscuits. Old women from the estate queued for plastic cups like it was church after the service. A few kids traced chalk along the old tire marks, the same way we used to ages ago. When Mum and Dad spotted me standing by the main archway, they held back, nervy. Anton and Carly caught up first, the former now sporting a sheepish grin. "Well, look at this.